I'm joined now by Dr. Ahmad Tarakji. He is the president of the Syrian American Medical Society. Doctor, thank you very much indeed for your time. Before I ask you about previous attacks, do you have any information about these most recent ones?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Unfortunately, we have been witnessing, especially over the last week, an escalation of attacks on hospitals and civil structures. We've seen that in the Ghouta, suburban Damascus, as well as in the Idlib and its suburban areas. For example, in Ghouta, we've seen probably 4 or 5 attacks targeting medical facilities, and the number is even higher in Idlib. We've seen in Idlib, for example, the major maternity and children's hospital was bombed 2 or 3 times over the last week and got out of service. That's a hospital that serves about 400,000 people in that region.
I understand that in the past you have actually been to the United Nations to present evidence, as far as you saw it, that proved that the Syrian regime was responsible for attacking hospitals. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I mean, it's very well known and very well documented that more than 90% of the attacks on medical facilities are done by airstrikes. The majority, obviously, all of these are done by the government of Syria. We actually faced with 2 major questions. One, how do we know those are hospitals? And second is the quality of documentation. So we provided evidence over and over the last 5 years that those are hospitals. We offered even more to share the coordinates and live streaming from within the hospital, from inside the hospitals, to show that those are hospitals that serving population, serving people, civilians. And provided that the United Nations takes a serious position on protecting those facilities, and we were just faced with silence. And then the other part is, as we discussed before, is serving the population. And at this time, we feel that targeting those facilities is aiming to displace people. We've seen, for example, in the suburban of Idlib and Hama, we've seen that those attacks over and over are causing more than 100,000 people to be displaced out of their towns and villages, and to the area where Al-Ma'arra, for example. And this number will continue to increase. Attacking those hospitals aims to displace those civilians from their towns to other areas and maybe force them to get displaced out of the country.
Your organization of Syrian American doctors sends medical practitioners to Syria. You yourself have been back there periodically since the war began. How have you found conditions to have changed every time you've been back?
The situation certainly is very challenging inside Syria right now, even in areas where are served by cross-border operation, like Idlib, suburban Halab, or suburban Hama. We see that those areas are still in high need. The ability of providing those cross-border operations through, for example, Turkey or Jordan, in collaboration with the UN, enabled us to stabilize the communities over there. Having said that, areas like Ghouta, which is completely besieged, it's very difficult to provide any humanitarian operation over there. And over the last few months, we've seen major international aid agencies pulling out of Ghouta because they cannot conduct any humanitarian relief operation in that area. So the situation keeps to be more and more challenging, and it's the opposite of the narrative of de-escalation. Unfortunately, on the humanitarian platform, we're seeing increased escalation, if we want to call it that way.
Dr. Ahmad Tarakji, thank you very much for your time, sir. We appreciate it.